Welcome back, part 3, page 9, and this is where we're really going to start digging into the paper collection and doing a lot of neat stuff. So in your paper pack you will find this sheet. On the back it looks like this. Let's go ahead and trim off this top part. Then we're going to measure over 6 1/4 and cut it. This piece goes in reserves. It's your smaller piece. We're going to measure down or over 8 1/4 inches and cut it. Now, what we need to do is cut a piece of cardstock that is 8 1/2 inches by 6 inches. Looking at your paper, we are 8 1/2 inches wide, 6 inches tall. Let's grab our die plates. This is the one that I'm using. It comes from the Ornate Borders and Pockets. It's this one. And we are going to center this at the top, run that through our die cutter. I've got mine cut. I'm actually going to place mine on my paper cutter to cut from here up to this side and then from here down to get a straight line to release. Okay, let's grab our score tape. We're going to make a pocket. And I'm going to mount that. I think I'm straight. Did I get that? Yeah. And we're just going to do like we usually do, is folding back the flaps around the back and tacking it down. In your paper pack you will find this sheet. On the back it looks like this. First of all, let's get this piece cut out and then we're going to trim it down to fit. You will notice that this is way too big to fit here. If you take your ruler and measure from the top here down, you should be in the neighborhood of somewhere of 4 1/8 inch to cover there. Measure yours. Now, looking at it like this, measure in, what did I say here? Measure in 1/2 inch and cut it. Let's start there. Okay, I got mine cut. Now lay your piece down, because when we place our die plates sometimes we're just a little bit off. Place your piece down like I am so that you can actually see where you're at. Come down to the bottom and make a pencil mark. Now I'm going to trim mine right off the bottom, or right off the side there, so I can fit. Now mine is going to fit, but it's still too long on the sides. So I am going to just place this down, and I'm going to make a mark here and over here so that I'm still centered. And now I'm going to trim off the sides. So let's do that. Okay, I've got all my trimming done. Before I put glue on the back of this, I want to make sure that I trimmed it good enough, and I did. So mine's going to fit perfect just like that. I'm going to go ahead, and you should too, put some glue on the back, and let's place that down. Oops, I got a little crazy with that glue. Okay. Not quite over enough there. There we go. Perfect. Let's start on our fold outs. The next thing that we need to do is grab a piece of cardstock. We are going to cut this to an 8 1/4, and we need 11 inches wide. Place your paper 11 inches across on your scoreboard. Our first score line is going to be at the 1/2 inch mark. Our second score line is going to be at 5/8. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, leaving your paper on there, we've got our two scores here. At 5 3/4, we are going to score it again. Now, go ahead and fold up that first part. Let's flip it over and fold it the other way. So what you have is your hinges or your flaps off to the left, and then this is going to fold over. Now what we do need to do is put our die plate over here, and I'm going to use the same exact one I did before. Those of you that are not working with a wider platform die cutter, what you are going to do is die cut this first on a separate piece of cardstock that is 8 1/4 inches in length. You will place it down, and then you will cut off that piece and you will glue it down here. You'll end up slicing your page, of course, a little shorter than this in order to get your trim piece on there. Those of you working with a wider, those of you working with the wider platforms, you'll have no problem here. You are going to place your plate right like this to the top, making sure you are pretty much centered between here and here, but the most important is measuring from here out. Make sure that that is straight, and we're going to run that through the die cutter. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is cut from here down to release this, and from here down to release that. So this is what you should have, your flaps going underneath on the left side. If you were to pull it over, it would look like this. So let's go ahead and flip it like this and work on this. Grab this piece out of your reserves. Let's go ahead and measure on over 8 1/8 and cut that. The smaller piece goes back into reserves. Now let's measure on over 5 inches and cut that. Our final piece is going to be 5 inches by 8 1/8. Once you've got your cuts done, check to see that you are going to fit without hitting onto your score marks. Mine is fitting perfectly. If that is the case, then go ahead and just put this off to the side. We know it's going to fit. Grab a piece of cardstock or look in your reserves if you have a piece, but what we need to cut it at is 6 1/2 inches by, what did I have? 5 1/2 inches. So 5 1/2 inches by what I just said, 6 1/2 inches. So let's cut that piece. Okay, I'm 6 1/2 inches going this way, 5 1/2 inches going up and down. Let's go ahead and grab that same plate, die plate, place it at the middle and the top, making sure we're all even. Run that through your die cutter. This is what you should have. Oops, I need to poke through mine. I am going to actually put this on my cutter and cut a straight line to release this top from here to here and here to here. Once you've done that, let's get our score tape down. We do have a pocket here. And we're going to do what we have been doing, centering this and mounting this to our cardstock. Or our page, and then we're just gonna tack these around the back. Okay, now in your reserves you will find this piece. It's the red one. On the back it looks like this, so that might help you. All we're gonna do is place this down, and it does need to be trimmed, so I'm just gonna use my pencil, make a mark here, come down here, make a mark here, and I'm gonna trim this to fit. So let's do that. Once you've done that, trimmed to fit, we're going to apply our glue and mount this. Now once you've done that, let's apply glue to the back of this, and your flaps will now be off to the right, and we will mount this. Okay, next what you'll want to do is grab a piece of lace, trim it to fit across, and glue it down. Your choice of lace, of course. Grab a couple leaves, and all I'm going to do here is put a little glue and just kind of put them together like so. And And I'm just going to stick those right like this. And in your reserves, you will find a sentiment saying best friends. I don't want the best in there. Friends is good enough for me. And I'm just going to trim this down a little bit. And you don't have to do that. You can use best friends and run it across. But all I'm going to do here is glue that down just like that. Next, what I did was I cut a piece of bling to fit across the bottom there and glued that down, kind of to highlight it a little bit. And I'm going to need that to dry. And then I cut another piece to go across the top and on the sides, and I just went around and glued it. So let's do that. This is what you should have. As soon as it's done drying, let's go ahead and flip it over, pull back our tabs out of the way, and work on this page. Okay, you will find this long strip of decorative paper in your reserves on the back. It probably looks like this. Okay, this is approximately about 3.5 inches wide. All we're going to do is measure over 8 1/8 and cut it. Check to make sure you're not going to overhang and that you still have a little bit of white here showing. Let's go ahead and glue this down. Okay, once you have that down, this is the easy part. Grab a piece of score tape and just run it right here on the top and the bottom of this little flip, because this becomes our really neat side pocket. Okay, and all we're going to do is bring this down and over. Make sure that it's down, and I'm going to grab something really quick so you can see. And this makes a really nice pocket. It's deep enough to get a wider photo mat in there, tags, whatever you need. So that's how that works. Let's get our piece for right here. In your reserves, you will find this sheet. It's pretty wide. On the back, it may look like this. You will notice that it will fit the height of this front panel piece. Measure on yours from the side on over here how much you need, and I'm showing that I need to cut it to be about, I'm going to say I'm going to go 3 1/4 inches. So check yours to make sure that's how wide you are. I'm just going to measure on over 3 1/4 inches and cut that. Now check to make sure that you are fitting. And mine fits great. Okay. Let's go ahead and glue this down. Again, always make sure that you're going to fit so you don't have any uh-ohs and hang off to the side. It's kind of harder to fix that once you've got this all together. And I am leaving some white off to the side when I did measure mine. A little. And up to the top. I think I'm pretty even there. Alrighty. In your reserves, you should find this piece. I think there might be a couple in there. If you flip it over, what I'm trying to get is this piece right here. So I'm going to cut that out. All I'm going to do here is glue this down. And if you're having a hard time finding it, because there is quite a bit of paper in your reserves, you can wait to the very end of the project and go and place whatever it is that you would like here. I thought that this kind of, the colors, how it all goes together, looks nice. Okay, next piece. Okay, cut a piece of lace to fit across, and we're going to glue that down, coming down just a little bit underneath there, like so. I can't tell which ways I'm supposed to be on this. No, I think right there, this way. You know, sometimes on the back of lace looks better than the other side, so I'm just gonna, I think it's this way. That looks best. Okay. It's going to need to dry a little bit. In the meantime, in your reserves, you will find this sentiment. Let's go ahead and cut this off here, these pieces. Okay, I'm going to separate this one and that one. I think I can hand cut this, make it fairly straight. That one. And that one. And all I'm going to do here is apply some glue. Whoops. Slightly at an angle. And then I'm going to apply some glue on this. This is going to take a moment on top of the lace to grab. So this one is slightly off to the side. This one goes right like this. And then also, in your reserves, that sheet that we just had, let's cut out Friendship in Blue. I'm going to cut mine really quick here. And I am peeling up. If you have this same issue, because it's going to take a moment to grab on that lace. If you have binder clips, that are longer in, I like to use, and I'll show you, these. These can get in there and hold down. These were purchased off eBay in a set, and I'll tell you, I have found that these work great. And let me get that situated the right way there. These work great. I'm just going to slide this right on in that pocket and let that sit for a moment, and reaching and getting in there. So while that's drying, if you use hot glue under these, they will stick down immediately. You just got to be careful not to get lumps underneath there. I think this collection is so pretty. Okay, last piece. I'm going to remove these, and then I can clamp it all down if I need to. Last piece right here, and it does get mounted to white cardstock. So I'm just going to grab a piece of white cardstock that is a scrap. Lay this down. I am leaving 1/16 of an inch of white all the way around this. So let's go ahead and do that. This is my piece, my final piece, and I didn't cut in the grooves with the white cardstock. I'm just going to leave it just like that. Let's go ahead and glue this down now. This goes right here. Let's grab a couple leaves. And I'm just going to add a little glue there. And because I'm not completely done drying, I'm just going to slip those right underneath there. Okay, I am going to grab this flat back pearl, and this just goes right here. If you would rather add a flower, I would do it in a flatter style flower rather than a bulky one. I don't know if you knew this or not, but on these paper blooms of Kaisercraft, I have been known to actually disassemble them and use them in layers. Like for instance, I took this flower, I pinched out the inside so that it came apart. You can pull these back to make it lay flat. You can use the part that's underneath, and you can ink around the edges, put pearls in there, and put that down as well. You can die cut your own flower like I did on the cover. And matter of fact, I am going to grab and have you set aside a sheet that you can use just for die cutting your flowers. For those of you that would like to die cut some extra flowers or whatever now during this rather than wait till the end, in your paper pack you will find this sheet. It's the stripe. On the other side, these different panels are a good panel to use. So I'm going to pull this from the paper pack and set it off to the side. Mark it so that you know that this one is okay to use. Okay, so let's grab our page and let's hook this on. And all I'm going to do is make sure that this is fitting the right way. My flap's off to the left. I'm going to pinch this, and now I'm going to tack this down. So far, this is what we should have here, is this, this, and this. Now check your reserves to see if you have a piece of cardstock that's already large enough. What we want is a 6.5 inch by 7 1/8 inch piece of cardstock. Grab your scoreboard, and we are 6.5 inches wide. Our first score mark is going to be at 5 1/8 inch. Oh, what happened to my pencil? I've got to mark mine because I don't have that on my board. 5 1/8 inch is going to be our first score line. From that first score line, measure over 1/4 inch to the right of that. And that will be right here. And make your next score line. Okay, let's fold on our scores. Okay, in your reserves, you will find this piece on the back. It looks like this. Let's go ahead and divide these two panels. The flap is off to the left. Let's fold our flaps completely in. Once you remove this is the one we want. The other one's going to go into reserves. Place this on there, and you should have a nice fit where you still have some white showing around. Let's glue that down. Okay, in your paper pack you will find another striped sheet. Let's go ahead and trim this off. We need a 5 by 7 piece of this, so I'm going to measure over 5 inches and cut it this way. And then that piece will be cut down by 7. So here we are, and check to make sure you are going to fit, and mine does fit. I am going to go ahead and apply glue and mount this. To give this a little color here, a little more color anyway. Now in your reserves, grab this piece back out. We are going to trim around it. We are going to trim off 1/8 of an inch from each side. Once you've done that, we are going to put glue back here, and we are going to mount that. Leaving a little bit of the stripes showing up there. There we are. I think I'm pretty straight there. Grab this sentiment piece back out. You will find this little red tag. I'm going to cut that out. I do need to mount this to white cardstock, so I'm going to just apply some glue here. Grab a piece of white cardstock. leaving a little bit of white around the edges. And now I'm just going to cut around that. Let's go ahead and glue that down once you've mounted to the white. This is what mine looks like. And I'm just going to place that right underneath there. Let's attach our fold out. The flaps are to the left. And I'm just having it all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to pinch that, and you should have a good fit over your other fold out. And now I'm going to tack that down. This page is complete. Let's flip it over. Score tape will go around the outside, one down the middle, two good sides pieces on either side of that. And let's mount it. When you're mounting this, you will want to mount this leaving just a little bit of white showing on the left. If you get it flush to the left, that is absolutely okay as well. I've got mine mounted in there, and this is where yours should look like too. Let's move on to page 10. In your paper pack, you will find another one of these. Let's go ahead and trim off the top. Then we're going to do exactly what we did before. Measure over 6 1/4 inches and cut it. The smaller piece goes into our reserves. Measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut it. We'll put this back in reserves. In your reserves, you will find this sheet on the back. It looks like this. Let's go ahead and remove this side trim piece first. Then we're going to divide these two. Go ahead and put the other pieces back in your reserves. If you haven't already done that, this is what we're going to work with. Cut a piece of cardstock that is 6 1/8 inch by 7 1/4 inches. Let's get our scoreboard out. We are 7 1/4 inches across. Measure over to 6 1/8. And I'm going to make a mark here. And then we are going to score at 6 1/8. And that 6 1/4, we're going to make our second score mark. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and fold on our score lines. I think I got mine pretty even there. All right, flaps are off to the right. Let's tuck them all underneath. And make sure that yours is going to fit. You should have white showing all the way around the edges. So let's glue that down. This is what you should have. Let's go ahead and flip that over and work on the inside. In your reserves, you will find this. It's like, I think it's like a 6 by 6. No, not quite 6 by 6. It's about 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 panel on the back. It looks like this. This will fit nicely, giving us a white border around here. Let's find that. Then in your scraps, find a piece of white cardstock that's going to be wide enough to wrap flaps around the back, and a minimum of 3 3/4 inch. We are going to make a pocket, and I am going to use those smaller border pieces. This one has got to be one of my favorites. It's so lovely. All I'm going to do is place this down and do like we've done before, making sure we're even here and even through here. And I'm going to run that through the die cutter. Okay, you know the drill. We are going to trim from here to here to here to release this piece. This piece actually gets placed on its side like this, so it makes no difference which way you measured to get around, because all the sides are the same. So let's place our score tape and get that on there. Our stripes are up and down like this, and I'm going to try and get this even here. Heartfelt Creations has a new paper out. Most of you who are followers of Heartfelt Creations probably already know Coffee Talk is out. That paper is gorgeous. That is one that I am going to absolutely jump on here in the near future and do a tutorial with. My next paper collection, the Steampunk Days, is not going to release until probably late February, and so until that's out, I'll be working with the Heartfelt Creations paper. Okay, let's go ahead and glue that down, because you know I love Heartfelt Creations. I love it. It's good paper. The designs are just phenomenal. Maybe one day I will be as good as them. However, I do love my paper line. I do like it. Okay, I've got that placed there. Let's get our piece. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, we'll have the keynotes. Now, it is completely up to you which side that you would like to use. If this should fit. If you need to trim it down, fine. If you are using the keynote side, all you'll do is place this down. And I lost my pencil again. Whoops. You'll place this down and just make a mark and then trim it to fit. If you want this side, you'll want to make sure it's even so that you don't have this here and nothing down here. So you'll want to just place that right there and cut just below that. Trim it, make a mark here and here so that you have the borders. Me, I want the keynotes. I think that's pretty cool looking. Oh, this way is the way I did that. Okay, so here we go. Right there. I'm going to trim it and apply glue. I was debating when I did this and on this particular one and which side do I use, but you know, I think this really makes those colors pop more. And that's why I went with it. Okay, we have that there. Let's attach. And this just gets centered right like this. Pull it all the way over, pinch it, and we'll tack it down. Okay, now I waited to do this after I got this on. Cut a piece of lace, but if you notice, when I cut mine short. And the reason why is because I am going to stretch this across and to fit so that it's a tight pocket, because you don't want this too loose to where nothing's going to hold in there. On this particular one, I am going to use hot glue on the right hand side so that it grabs immediately, and then I can use white glue on this side if I want it, or the hot glue, and to hold it down. Now I'm going to look and see. I think it's this side that is supposed to be down. Here we go. Sorry. I'm just going to place a little glue on the inside first to bring it over, making sure I don't go across the page. Now, if you're using the white glue, you will need some clamps because you're going to have to hold it in place there. Okay? If you're using hot glue, it should grab immediately. Just be careful of seepage and burning yourself. And I may have put that, and you will, once your thing is on there because you stretched it, it may bow. That's okay. When we place the page down, it's going to be a tight fit so that we can put what we need to behind there and it hold. Okay, in your reserves, let's go ahead and find this on the back. It looks like this. We are looking for this middle piece, so let's go ahead and separate those. Okay. Next, cut a piece of cardstock that is 5 1/4 by 6 1/4. Grab your score pal. We are 6 1/4 inches across, I do need my ruler and my pencil. At 5 1/8, you are going to score it. And at 5 1/2, you are going to score it again. So let's do that. Okay, let's fold. Now, one thing is this is not going to be long enough, and that is on purpose because we are going to have lace down here, and I wanted a bigger place on the inside for that pocket. So let's fold. And flaps off to the right. Let's tuck them all in. And we are going to glue this down, and we're going to center this, and we are going to leave a little white here and white on each side. And glue that down. Now find this strip. We had cut it off previously on the back. It looks like this. All we're going to do is measure over to the same as this and cut it. Let's glue that down. We are going to need our lace next. Now, if you are using a thicker lace that will cover this up, fine. If you are using a thinner lace that shows through, grab this second piece, cut it to fit, and let's see if I can do this straight. And glue it underneath there. I'm going to be using a thicker one, however, it does have a little bit of dangly, so I'll go ahead and put this down. That is completely up to you. Okay. Lace. And I just had that in my hands. Oh dear, what have I done? Here it is. Okay. All I'm going to do here, as you can see, is cut a piece to fit. And I'm going to glue it down. Oops. I think that looks okay. So I'm going to glue that down, and I am going to leave that first trim border showing a little bit. So let's do that. This is going to have to dry. Now, while that's drying, I can't tell if I'm straight or not. While that's drying, grab one of these, the DBS wafer thins, and what this is going to do is place right here, but we're not gluing it all the way down because we want to still be able to slide things in and out. So all I'm going to do here is just put glue on the side and the bottom. I'm going to bring it all the way over to the edge there, right above this trim. And I'm going to glue that down. And I think I'm going to clamp this to hold it down good. I have another clamp around here somewhere. Binder clip would work just as well. So while this is drying, I did die cut a single layer flowers, and I put my pearls in there. I'm letting that dry. I'm getting my leaves ready. And I do have a butterfly. And I'm going to set that all off to the side. Before we add the flower, the leaves, and the butterfly, I do want to work on the inside. So as soon as this dries, I'll be right back. And then when we're completely done and have this attached, then we'll add the more bulkier items. Sometimes it's easier to glue down things without it, you know, being uneven underneath. In your reserves, you will find this piece on the back. It looks like this. All I'm going to do is trim off this, and so that all that's going to be left is the border piece of the polka dots. And I'll show you what that looks like. So this is what it looks like. Okay. In your reserves, you should find this piece. On the back, it looks like this. And grab a piece of white cardstock. All we're going to need to do here is we are going to need a piece that is big enough, long enough to reach. And we're going to put it up to the edge. We're going to die cut it on the white. We will trim it. We are going to do the same thing with this, and we are going to center this to make sure that we can line it up with the white, and we're going to die cut that. So let's do that. Shame on me. The die I'm using is out of the Fleur Borders and Pockets. It's this one, the long piece. I've got mine die cut. I am going to set mine on my cutter so that I can cut a straight line from here to here, here to here. And I'm going to do that on both of these. Okay, once you've got that done, when I glue this down, I'm going to leave a little bit of the white showing here, so it'll look really nice once I have this down. So let's go ahead. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make this real simple. We're going to add the glue, and we don't need to come down that far. We're going to put it, well, I definitely need to unclog that. I'm back in business, so I'm going to hold this up here. First of all, we do need to get this area. That is a no-brainer. As far as this, we're just going to come down a little bit, enough to just like that. And now I'm going to place this, making sure I'm looking pretty even with the white, because there will be a little bit of white trim showing there. And I think I got that pretty good. Okay. Now, what you are going to do is from here over about a ½ inch. I got mine trimmed up. Now, I am not going to use the score tape on this. All I'm going to do is use a little bit of white glue, not much, so I don't want that much seepage. I'm going to lay this all the way over, centering it like so. And now I'm just going to wrap my edges around, tack them behind the back. Now all we have to do is add glue to the back. Remember, when gluing this, so you're not upside down, your flaps are off to the left. And all we're going to do is center this, so you will have a nice white border around the edges. And now you should have a functional pocket that will hold stuff. Maybe you can see that better. Okay, let's attach this. All we need to do is bring this in, and we are just going to center it on over the other one. I'm going to pinch this and tack that down. Okay, for placement of the leaves, they go right down here, making sure that you don't get glue inside the windows. Bend mine up a little. Then I'm going to glue this down right here. And the butterfly goes right up here, making sure that I don't get in front of my window there. The last two pieces, or the last piece actually, is treasured. Let's cut that out. Just add a little bit of glue. We are not going to back this, and we are sliding that right under its wing at an angle. It won't interfere with this. I'm still drawing. Treasured. This is ready to go in our book. We're going to put score tape around the outside, one down the middle, two smaller ones on the side, and put that in. Before I mount this, when doing the butterfly so it doesn't cut that off, sometimes it's helpful just to put something underneath there to get it right on the edge of that frame so that you don't stick through. I got mine in. One thing I wanted to do is let's make that inner folder together and make sure that yours is going to be tight enough. If not, you cinch it over more, dab a little hot glue to get it. So in your reserves, you will find, where is it? I will get that. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it looks like this. We need that. And I'm going to show you how I do some of these. All you need to do is cut a piece of cardstock for this particular folder. 10 1/16 of an inch by 7 1/8. And as soon as you got that cut, you are going to fold it in half. The opening is at the bottom, and you are going to glue this panel down. Now, at the end of the tutorial, I'll let you cut your pieces for in here, but let's grab our album. Now slide that in there. That should hold your piece without sliding out. It should be just tight enough, but not too tight to where you're going to bow your thing, but it should slide in and out, and when you get even your other two pieces of cardstock in here, it's gonna even grab better. But you should be able to lift your album now, and it should not fall out. It might slip a little, but should not fall out at all. Okay, last two pages, page 11. Let's move on. Page 11, let's go ahead and trim off this piece. So looking at your paper like this, we're going to measure over 6 1/4 inches and cut that. Set this off to the side in your reserves. Let's go ahead and we're going to look at it this way now so we get the right cut. We're going to measure down or over 8 1/4 inches and cut it. Put this off to the side. Okay, let's grab a piece of cardstock, and we're going to make this real easy. So those of you working on a platform that has only the 6-inch wide opening to get your paper through and a die, we're going to look at our paper like this. This is 11 inches tall. We're just going to measure over 6 inches and cut that. Okay, stick that off in reserves. Now, in your Regal borders and pockets, these are the larger trim die pieces. All we're going to do is find the center here, which should be 5 1/2. And I do have my pencil because I am going to be precise on this so that I'm not lopsided. So 5 1/2 is right about here in the middle. So I'm going to put the middle, the top middle here, right up here. And I am going to make sure, of course, that we're even from here to here and from here to here. And I'm going to just run that straight on through my die cutter. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to stick this on my paper cutter, and I'm going to cut from that corner all the way down on each side so I can get a straight cut. Okay. We're going to make a score mark. I am setting mine down with the tip over on this side. From this edge here over, we're going to measure over 3 3/8, and we're going to score right on down. And I'm going to find mine here with my pencil first. Oops, there's 3. 1, 2, 3/8. That's where I need to do. Okay. Again, mine doesn't have all the small little notches, so that's why I use the pencil and the ruler. Okay, and I'm just going to make a single score on that. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do that. You may want to use on this particular, what we're doing, we're creating a pocket, but what we're doing is this is the lip that's going to go around the back, and then what we are going to do is this part here is going to flip around, so it's going to give us more room to slip stuff in and out. But I do want to use my tool here to get it pretty creased. Okay, in your paper pack you will find this, so let's go ahead and trim that off. Okay, we're going to make this real easy and give us some room, but let's measure over 7 inches and cut. Okay, now the big piece with the dress goes in your reserves. We're going to work with this slender one. So let's go ahead, and the first thing we want to do is trim off this top part. So put this on your paper cutter, and right underneath the leaf tip, let's just trim that right on off. Okay, there we go. Let's put this in our reserves. Now, looking at it like this with the border up, let's measure down 8 1/4 inch and the small piece goes in reserves. Now, in your Regal borders and pockets, if you were using the same plate as I was for the cutout on the white, find this piece that matches up to it that would fit right on in there. This is what you want. Now you're going to use your ruler, and this is 8 1/4 inches, so what the middle point should be about 4 1/8. So I am going to use my pencil because I know I won't be able to, and make a mark. That should be my midpoint there. That's going to help me. So all I'm going to do is put that pencil mark right at the middle point of the tip of this die. We're going to make sure, of course, it's even like we have, the same thing we've been doing, and I am going to run that through my die cutter. Okay, same thing we've done before. We want to cut from here to the edge there and here to here, and I am using my paper cutter. Now, once you've done that, place it up here. One thing you may find is that your edge is a little longer than the white. So like for me, what I'm going to do is just take my pencil and make a mark where I need to come down farther. I wasn't so accurate here. To make sure that this is even. So I'm going to go ahead and trim mine up, and I'll show you what you should be looking like. Now, once you've done any trimming, you may not need to. My tape was old and I did slide a little, but that's okay. I fixed it, and this is where you should look like. Now, one thing is we gave ourselves some room, and sometimes we place our dies a little over farther than the other. So what you want to do next is take your pencil to the edge of that white, because we have that little flap folded underneath, and make a mark. Now you know where you need to trim in order for this to fit nicely. So once you have this in place, don't glue it down yet. This is how I've always done it, but I am just going to stick this up while it's mounted where it's supposed to be. And at the edge here, I'm just going to score it so I know what gets flipped back behind. You can fold this back, and you can fold this side back. Let's get our scissors. And that little square, we are going to cut the notch out. Let's see how we did. Lining this up like this, tucking this back behind. If you need to do any trimmings on your notches, So that's what we're going to do. Once you have it in place, we're going to do like we always have. We're going to pinch that. Oops. And we are going to tack this down. And I do see where, when I was cutting my notch, I cut at an angle, so I am going to trim that up just a little bit so it fits better. And then that side looks good. Alright. This is where you need to be. The reason why I did the tuck around the top and the bottom is because on this particular page I wanted plenty of space. As you can see, you can slide in a lot of stuff in here. And then once we have our fold out, well, it's not going to slide out of the book because the fold out's there and folds over. Okay, remember the little trim piece that we had cut off of this? Let's go ahead and measure over 4 inches and cut that. We're going to use this. Now, in your ornate borders and pockets, we've been using the same top one, or you may have been alternating using this one. I am going to use this one. It's the smaller one. Now, the trick to this, because how this is going to work is a small pocket, and the edge of this is going to be here, and then over here wraps around the back. So for proper placement, and here are the die pieces I'm using, what you're going to want to do is just line this up with the bottom and the side, like I have. Because of the fact we want to have a fairly even looking top part of this, the decorative part, some of our die plate is going to be off the page. So looking at yours, just kind of look where it would look the best and place your other piece. Once you have that, then run it through. Mine is looking like this, where I have all the edge off the side. So I'm hoping this will come out like my other one. So let's run this through the die cutter. Okay, so let's see how I did here. First I'm going to just kind of lay this down to take a peek, line it up where I'm supposed to be as I made my cuts, keeping it straight. Okay. The next thing is putting this down and kind of looking up like this, because this is going to wrap back behind. This will wrap back behind, and I think I'm centered enough. So I'm going to show you, and if you'd like to wait until I am done to see exactly how this works, I am looking at it like this. I'm just going to place a piece of score tape right down here. And I think I am going to place one right here, but I am going to trim it just a hair. Trim that. And you can use glue if you don't want to use your score tape, since it's such a small thing. Okay, I'm going to remove my score tape. My coffee's done. I'm going to go get me a cup of coffee. And I'm going to place this right at the corner there, lining up with the bottom. And then I'm just going to pinch that around the back and tack that. And that looks pretty good to me. It's time to get this glued down. So let's get our glue on the back of this and mount it. Okay, I've glued mine down. Yours should look like this as well. Now, in your reserves, remember I told you to keep everything? This is one of those times. We had die cut the shoe, and there's still some paper here that would work really good across the bottom, and it's this part that I'm going to get at. So in order for me to cut this, all I'm going to do is just measure what I need, or if you're not into measuring, all you have to do is place a corner of yours down underneath that trim, make a pencil mark how far over you need to be, or how far down anyway. And then just come right on over to the edge over here. Now I know I have to cut down this way and across to that point. So that might be an easy way for you. Okay, once we get our little piece, let's just add some glue and place it down there. Perfect. Okay, in your paper pack you will have another one of these. It looks like this on the back. I'm going to go ahead and cut out Embrace Life. Let's grab some white cardstock. This one does have white cardstock mounted behind it. And also, when you were cutting this out, right next to it was this one. Just cut that out really quick. Even though it says it's your special day, we're just going to use this side. So I am just going to put this down here, leaving a little bit of white all the way around, and I'm going to cut that out. Okay, so the back side of this, just flip it over. You have this mounted on white cardstock. Right over here in the corner, just put a little bit of glue. And all you are going to do is put those together just like that. And once you have that there, just apply a little glue over here on one side is all you need. I think I was down. No, I was like that. Just like that. Grab a piece of cardstock and cut a piece that is 6.5 inches by 8 1/4 inches. Okay, let's grab our scoreboard. Our first score is going to be at 5.5 inches. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm 6.5 inches across the board here, just in case you can't see very well. So at 5.5 inches, I am going to go ahead and make a score mark. And then from that score line, measure over 3/16 of an inch and score again. And I do need to use my ruler to do this. 1, 2, 3. And those of you that don't have a ruler that are guessing, it's right underneath the 5 3/4 mark. Okay, I think I got that pretty good. Okay. One thing I will be probably doing to help out people who have a hard time with measurements, either they don't remember it, or like me, I say I wasn't taught in school, but reality is I probably wasn't paying attention in school. So I had to learn how to figure out what 6 1/8 and all that good stuff was later on in life. So I think I might be putting out a tutorial just showing some different basic measurements to try and help people, because I know I've had a lot of people asking me, well, what is that? So if you are someone who struggles with measurements like I used to, this might be helpful if I can figure out a good way to teach it, that is. Okay, we have folded back. This fold out actually is going to be attached on this side, but not yet. Let's grab our Geigle Borders and Pockets die, and we are going to do the same thing. Now, let's fold back all of these. So those of you that are working with only a 6-inch wide base, you can just fold these right back underneath. And we are 8 1/4 inches. So let's find our middle point, which should be about 4 1/8. Maybe not. If not, find it. I think that is 4 1/8 right there. Okay, so I've got tape and everything sticking here. This is the die plate I am using. It's the same one that I used here. And I'm just going to do the same thing I did before, making sure I'm all even, and I'm going to run that through the die cutter. What I was saying is, those of you with only the 6-inch wide platforms, just fold that right underneath and you should fit right on through. Yeah, say 5.5 inches. Okay, let's run it through our die cutter. Okay, we're going to do the same thing we did before by trimming back from here to here and here to here. Grab this piece out of your reserves, and I'm just going to turn it right on like that. And I'm going to measure down 8 1/4 inches and cut that. Okay, now that we have that, we are 8 1/4 inches long. Measure over 5.5 inches and cut that. Stick all your scrap pieces in reserves. Whoops, I've got my die plate caught on my camera. Okay, the same plate that fits right in here. That is not the right one. Does not look like it anyway. Is it? Nope. My bad. This one is the one that fits. Okay, all we are going to do here is the same thing, because we're going to do a little trimming, is we're going to measure up to about 4 1/8 and make a pencil mark so we can try and stay centered. Another way to do this, as I've taught in tutorials before, that if you just bring your paper straight on up, making sure that you're not too far down, you should be the same top and bottom. Bring it all the way up so where you can just see the tip of that showing to match up, and you can always do it that way as well, finding the middle and then pinching it to where you know where the middle is supposed to be, and then just making sure you're even. Let's run that through the die cutter. Okay, got my piece and I trimmed up from the sides. I'm going to fold back my flaps now. We're going to do what we did before, seeing where we need to do some trimming. And let's see, placing this down. Once you get it to where you are, where you're supposed to be. And I'm crooked. There we go. I'm just going to see, okay, I'm lining up here. I do need to take a hair up here. I think my thing slipped. And I'm going to trim this back. Get me even. All right. Once you've done some trimming up here that's needed, what you're going to do is you're going to trim back over here. So I'm just going to pull that right on over so I can still see the top. And I'm going to make a mark and trim this to fit. Once you've trimmed yours and you're fitting good, go ahead and set this off to the side. Okay, you're going to want a piece of cardstock. If you have one in your reserves that is long enough to have flaps off the top and the bottom to wrap around the back, great. Measure over 1.5 inches. And so we want a 1.5 inches by at least, I'd say, 10 1/4 inches long. So let's get our score tape out. We're just going to run a row right on down the side here. Just going to place that. And let's tack that around. Now, when we were trimming on the piece for this, you would have had a long strip like this. Turn it over. It should fit perfectly. Let's glue that down. Let's go ahead now, once we have that, we have our little side pocket, let's apply glue to the back of this and mount it. And remember, our flaps should be off to the left-hand side. So the next thing we want to do is cut a piece of lace to fit from top to bottom, and we're going to glue that down. Now, in your reserves, there is a tag left over. On the back is this. If you need a few moments, pause the video to locate it. But let's go ahead and cut this tag out. Next thing you want to do is, or I did, was, and it's up to you, I wanted to give this a little more strength, but I'm going to put glue around the back of here, and I am going to mount this on cardstock, leaving a 1/16 inch of white all the way around. and then I'm going to cut that out. The next thing we want to do is make a bow with our ribbon, and we are just going to glue that right down there. Let's grab a flat back pearl and glue it down to the center of the bow. So you should be here. The only place that we are going to apply glue is right here, and it's not going to get on any part of this. So I do want to put, when I'm doing this, so that I don't accidentally get glue on my paper, I'm just going to use a little hot glue right here, is just mount this off at an angle, just like that. In your reserves, we had just taken those 2 sentiments out. Let's flip this on over, measure over 5.5 inches, and this piece goes back into reserves. Measure over, let's see, where am I? Looking at it like this. Which way? Like this. Flip it over. Doesn't matter at this point. 8.25 inches and cut it. We're going to do the same thing we did before, is finding the middle and running it through our die cutter. Having your die plate off to the left side of the paper. Okay, next step is what we have been doing, is cutting from the top to the edge. And we're going to repeat what we did on the first page to get it to fit. Once you've got yours to fit, all we're going to do is glue this right on down. Oops, I'm missing my edges. And all we're going to do is just mount this on down. Okay, once you've got that down, it's time to attach this. And we're going to do like we normally do, just pinching it where it needs to be, lining it up, and tacking it down. Okay, this is the sheet I had you set aside for die cutting. And what I am going to do is put my flower die as far over on the red polka dots, and I'm not going to stamp it. All I'm going to do on this is just cut this square out and then place my die plate there and run it through my die cutter. Okay, all I'm going to do is a 2-layer flower. I'm not going to do a lot of fussing. I'm just going to roll on my mat here just to get it going. And I'm going to be inking around the edges with rhubarb stalk. And then all I'm going to do then is just glue these two together and put some frills in the middle. Okay. I'm going to let this dry, the frills in there. I ran out of leaves, so I'm just using the olive grove, so I'm going to die cut some more leaves. Stamp them first, die cut them. I'm going to make an extra one. I have another project while I have it out. Okay, so let's get some leaves going. After you're done die cutting or stenciling, cutting out your flowers, or if you're using the pre-made flowers, then you can skip ahead here. These are what are the pages I told you to reserve for your die cutting. I'm going to stick these off to the side so I know that these are the ones. Okay, I'm all done. I'm actually going to attach the leaves to the bottom of the flower first. Sliding that like that. Now, this just gets placed right at the corner right here. So you might want to tack down your ribbon there, and then just a little bit of glue. You will probably want something I'm just going to slide this there for now. So it doesn't get your paper. There we go. My prills weren't quite dry. Okay. Let's go ahead and apply score tape to the back outside, 1 down the middle, 2 on either side, and mount it in our book. I've got mine in my book. You know, and one other thing that would look really cute is another flower, 2 layers, because you don't want it too bulky in this album that I did. So layering another flower just right like that would look super. Okay, page 12. We are on our last page. We do have some die cutting to do. Before we cut our base page, I am going to have you work on some die cutting and cuts. So the first thing that we want to do, and I'm just experimenting here as far as doing this first before we go along, what we want is I need you to cut a piece of cardstock that is 8 1/4 inches by 7 1/2 inches. Let's get our scoreboard out. I am 7 1/2 inches across. At the 6-inch mark, let's go ahead and score a line, and at 6 1/4 inches, we're going to score our second line. Now before we fold, and for those of you that are working on a platform that's wide enough, you don't have to fold. Okay, this is what we need to do. Is I am using this die plate, and it comes from the Fleur and Pockets die that we've used. And our score marks, our flap's going to be off to the right. So we are just going to piggyback this across. I'm just lining the edge of this up here and the top of these up here, and I'm going to run that through the die cutter. Then I'm going to place this on the right hand side of the other one, and I'm going to run it through the die cutter. It's kind of like how we did that other page. What you're going to get is this. Now we do have this at the top, and don't worry about it. Okay, those of you that are working on a 6-inch wide platform have to accommodate for this. What you're going to want to do is grab a piece of cardstock, and you're just going to go ahead and run it through twice, piggyback it. Then what you're going to do is cut it off enough, and then you will place it to where the top of your die, your trim, and you're going to measure up to make sure that that top part of your trim does not go over the 8 1/4. You will have this behind, and that's where you're going to have to trim that back down in order. Otherwise, you're going to be sticking up way out of the album. I hope that makes sense. Okay. The next thing, once you get that done, you can go ahead and fold in your sides, and we are going to set this off to the side. The next thing that we're going to need cardstock wise, and you are going to need a total of 6. So cut 6 pieces of 6-inch by 5 1/8 inch. Now to maximize, if you're using the 8 1/2 by 11, to maximize your space, what you'll want to do is, and you'll probably want to double up if you can, is you're going to measure over to 5 1/8 and cut it, and then measure over again 5 1/8 so that you're getting more. If you were to cut over like this, you're just going to be wasting paper. So, and then you'll trim it up to the 6 inches, and you'll cut a few of these until you have it. Once you have your 6 5 1/8 by 6-inch pieces, you're going to place each one on your scoreboard. At 5 3/4, you are going to score them all. Okay? And your flap's going to be up at the top. Is you're going to grab the ornate borders and pockets, and we are using this top one again. And here's the easiest way to get these all to line up, because you're going to do this on each one of them. Okay? You're going to find the middle point. And the middle point is 2 9/16. 2 9/16 is that first little notch right after the 2.5. Okay? So I would mark each one first at the midpoint to keep you straight. You're going to place, sorry, my tape is getting old. You will place this piece down where the middle lines up, and of course we're going to want to be careful, make sure we are even. And then you're going to want to place this down, and I think I just told you your flap's at the top. Okay, you may want to use some tape to hold this down so it doesn't slide around on you. And you are going to run this through the die cutter, and you're going to do it on all of them, and then you're going to cut in from the sides. Those of you that are using a trim punch like the deep edge Martha Stewart punches, you'll get away easy on this. You'll just trim across the bottom. Now those of you that have been die cutting up to this point, no party pooping out on us. You're going to do this because this is really neat. This is what's going to come out of it, and they're beautiful. And these are for our waterfalls that we're going to do. So no party pooping, and I can say that because I'm usually the party pooper, but not this time. So let's go ahead and get that done. Once you have all your pieces, we're gonna go ahead and start into our base page. Okay, our base page. Let's do some cutting. This cut is a little bit different. We're gonna keep consistent with how we've been measuring over. So we're just gonna measure over 5 3/4 inches and cut this. Okay, this one goes in reserves. If you were to take a ruler, you should be 6 1/4 inches wide. Now look at it like this, measure down 8 1/4 inches and cut that. Okay, in your paper pack you will have another one of these. Let's go ahead and trim that off. Okay, let's go ahead and just cut this at 6 inches right down the middle. We're going to start there. This one goes in our reserves. Okay, let's get this piece back out, and this is where you're going to need to measure as well yours, depending if you didn't use this trim or you're using a different trim going across the top. So you are going to come right underneath your trim piece, measure all the way down to the bottom, leave yourself about a 1/16 of white showing, or even an 1/8 inch would be good, and cut it. I'm showing I need 7 1/4 inches down. So I am going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut it. And you can do yours as well. The smaller one's going to go off to the side in reserves. Now place this up here, and you do want about a 1/16 of an inch of white showing around the edges. When I cut it at 6 inches, I do need to take about 1/8 inch off the side. I am going to take it off this side so it doesn't mess with my border. So if you need to trim yours up, do so. Let's take a look, and before you do any gluing or anything, let's go ahead and make sure that we're fitting, leaving about 1/16 of white showing around, and I am that. So I am going to go ahead and glue this down. Now in your reserves you should have 2 of these. One has the shoe, and we have paper up here. This is not the one that we want to use. We're going to put that back in reserves. It's this one. Now let's get our all glammed up die, and all we're going to do is we can just cut that right here so it will fit in our die cutter. Well, we're just going to place the die over the shoe, and we're going to run it through our die cutter. So let's do that. I've got mine die cut out. Now grab a piece of white cardstock and die cut the shoe right on there. You won't want to stamp it. This white cardstock's just going to mount behind here. Now all we're going to do is glue this right on top of this so that it makes it a little thicker and a little more durable, because this is also a small pocket. Okay, we're going to mount our shoe, and we're going to be very careful where we place it on here. The bottom of the shoe is going to come to the bottom of the front of our fold out here, and the side is going to be here. Now let's flip this over. I am going to use glue for this rather than the score tape, so I'm just going to put a thin line right there and a thin line here and just a little bit over here. And now I'm going to mount this. Just like that, because we have a couple waterfall thingies that are going to be placed down, and this is going to hold whatever we slide, and our things will just flip right on over. We'll still be able to get something in and out of there. Now in your reserves you will have a couple of these, and these are the smaller pieces. It fits almost exact on mine. There is a little trimming I'm gonna do, but grab yours out. On the back it looks like this. Okay, we are 5 1/8 inch across, so I am first going to measure, and I want the flowers in. So I'm going to look at it like this. I'm going to measure over just to 5 inches, and I am going to cut that. The next thing we have is, when you place this, you should be able to see about 1/16 of an inch of white here and here. That's what we want all the way around this. So I have 1/16 of white here, but I do need to trim up just a little bit here, so that's where our pencil comes into play. And the reason why I'm not going to give you an exact measurement is because in case you didn't use this, or you set your die a little bit off, your measurement won't be quite exact. So the easiest way is just to look at it like this, place it where you have the 1/16, come to the edge of the white, mark up 1/16 inch, use a pencil to mark where you need to cut, and then just trim it on off. I trimmed mine, and I'm going to glue it down now, so yours should look like that. Now in your reserves you will find this piece on the back. It looks like this. I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece out up here. This piece is going to be for in here, but we do have a little bit of trimming to do. I'm showing that in order to give myself 1/16 of an inch all the way around, I'm going to have to trim a little off the sides and also across the top. So let's go ahead and do our trimming to fit. I've got my sides all trimmed down to fit. And the biggest thing is make sure that your bottom of your paper does not hit your score line. So with it flipped up like this, let's go ahead and glue our first piece down to the inside of one of our waterfalls pieces. Okay, once you have your first one, let's go ahead and grab our score tape. We're just going to put our score tape just on the other side of the score line there. Not on the score line, but just on the other side. And we're going to trim off any excess hanging off the side. Okay. Now, you will notice that there is excess white that does not have the score tape. This is where I'm going to put it on my paper trimmer, and I'm just going to trim that right on off. So let's do that. What you are going to want to do is, and I'm going to show you before we attach our first one here, is we are going to measure down 1/2 inch from the bottom of your trim down. And then we are going to center it between here and here, and we are going to mount that just like that. And how I have that is the score tape's like this. I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to come down 1/2 inch, and I'm going to eyeball this because I think I know where that is, possibly, hopefully. And I'm just going to make sure I'm even as I can anyway. And I'm going to mount it just like that. Once I flip it up, I can press it down even more. Okay? Let's go ahead and get our next one that does go right underneath here. Let's get the papers for that one. This is the piece left over after we had cut this one out. Let's go ahead and cut this one out now. And also let's get that Let's Celebrate Beautiful, that trim piece cut out too. Alright, this is the front, and what we're going to do is the same thing. We're just going to trim off around the edges until it fits, and then we're going to glue that down. So let's do that. Okay, I got mine down. I'm going to flip that up. Now, flip this over, and we already know that we need to be 5 inches across, so let's go ahead and measure 5 inches across on that. Okay, and then all we're going to do is trim this to fit. So let's do that. I've got mine, and I am going to glue this down. I may have cut mine just a little too short, but that's okay. Okay, so once you have that, let's go ahead and apply our score tape. We're going to remove it, and then we're going to trim it down. Or excuse me, we're going to put our score tape down, trim up any anything hanging over. Then we're going to trim it like we did the other one. Okay, this one. From the bottom of the white flap here, you're going to measure down 3/4 of an inch, and that is where this one gets placed. So you'll want to make sure that they line up, and just by looking at it and placing it, you'll be able to do that. Just keep your sides straight. So I'm going to do that. Three-quarters of an inch should be right about there. And I think that's pretty straight. I'm just going to set mine loosely there. That looks good. And that's what you should be like. And you should still have enough room to slide something in there. And slide something a good size. Here is a tip in case yours are popping out like this. Is all, because we're not attached yet, all you have to do is kind of bend it a little, give it a little bend here, and then you should be able to lay flat and not be gaping popped up. Okay, let's go ahead and flip it over and work on the inside. Whoops, almost forgot. Let's Celebrate Beautiful. My bad. This just gets placed right here. So if you put it down from side to side, if it hangs over the white just a hair, and it might, mine does, probably 1/16 of an inch or so, you're just going to want to trim that so it fits, and then you're just going to glue that right on down. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to move on to the inside. Okay, we are working on the inside. Our flap's off to the left here. And again, what we are going to do on each of ours is measure from the bottom of this trim down to here to see what we need to cut. In your reserves, you will find this. So once you figure out what you need from the top to the bottom, we're going to measure over and cut it, and I am, looks like 7 1/4 inches. So measure yours depending on where you are. With this piece, you're going to measure over 5 3/4 of an inch and cut it. Now check yours to make sure that you are going to fit, leaving yourself some white over here and here and some room. Okay, set that off to the side. Okay, in your reserves, you will find this. Now we just put this off to the side. This is not the one we want. The one we want is this one, and it's a little cut off at the top. But if we flip this over, we're going to use the polka dots. Now, I'm showing that I am a good fit from top to bottom. All I'm going to do on this is measure over 5 inches and cut this. And then I'm going to glue this down. So depending on your die, what you use down here, this should fit. This gives plenty of room. I got mine glued down. Let's flip this up and get the paper for the inside. Now in your reserves, you will find a long strip like this. If you put it down, it should fit. It is going to give you a little bit more white around the edges, but it does not matter. So measure over 5 inches and cut the other pieces in reserves. And we are going to center this on our inside here, and we're going to glue that down. Let's go ahead and place our score tape like we have the others. And then we're going to trim it down. Okay, placement of this one. You are going to put the tip of yours right down at the bottom and have it centered side to side. And that is where this one gets placed. So let's do that. Now that we have that one placed, we can actually get our pocket here. So let's go ahead and grab into our white cardstock reserves. Okay, in your reserve cardstock, find a piece that is 3.5 inches by at least, I would say, 8.5, so that we have something to wrap around the back. So go ahead and get that cut. Now in the Regal Borders and Pockets die, I am using this one. And I'm just going to center that and put the tip up here. Make sure I'm even, and I'm going to run that through the die cutter. Okay, and all I'm going to do on this is cut in from the sides for now, on each side to release the top part. Now in your reserves, you will have this square piece, and what we're looking for is the polka dots. You're going to get a bracket that matches up to this, and I'm finding this one is the one. And all I'm going to do is stick this right like this and run that through the die cutter. And I will trim this up when I'm done. Okay, once you've die cut it, all you are going to do is place this up here. You're going to measure down, use your pencil, mark it where the bottom of the white is going to meet your paper, and now all we're going to do is trim that. Once you've done that, now take this, place it down here all the way to the bottom without the white on there, and make your mark where you need to trim to fit across this page. So let's go ahead and trim. Once you did your trimming off to the side, you're going to glue this to the white cardstock. Okay, let's get our score tape and place it across the bottom. And we're going to mount this like we would any other pocket. And wrap around the back and tack. Now, if your sides from the white is peeking over, you just trim that right on off, and you will not have a problem with placing this on the inside panel when we get that far. We're not quite done with this. Okay, grab a piece of lace, measure what you need, and trim it off. Apply glue and glue that down. In your reserves, you will find this sheet. We're going to cut out Fun Times. You're also next, once you got that, you are going to cut out this little tag piece. We're going to go ahead and glue this down to some white cardstock in your scraps, and we are going to leave about a 1/16 inch of white showing all the way around when we cut this out. And we're also going to do the same thing with the tag. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to glue this down right like this, slightly at an angle, and then this one gets glued down right like that. So let's go ahead and do that. I got mine glued down. Let's go ahead and finish up here. In your reserves, you should find this sheet on the back. It looks like this. We're going to measure over 5 inches and cut it, and mine will fit perfectly after I do that. However, if you need to trim up a little from the bottom, go ahead and do that. And let's glue that down. In your reserves, you will find another one of these. It looks like this. We are going to measure over, I got glue and everything stuck to me, 5 inches and cut it. We are going to work on the tops first and then we'll get the bottom half. I do need to trim mine to fit, so if you need to do that, go ahead and do that as well, and then we're going to glue that down to the next one. In your reserves, you should find this piece on the back. It looks like this. It places right here. It should be a perfect fit across. So now all I'm going to do is measure down how much I need to come and trim that to fit and glue that on. In your reserves, you will find this. I think this is the one we cut on. When you flip it over, there should be a solid color, not solid, but the black or whatever. If it isn't this one, you're still going to use it. It'll match in. Just measure on over 5 inches and cut it. All right, flip up this one, and we're going to glue that down, making sure that it fits, and it should be a good fit for you. This one has the front and the back done. Set that off to the side. In your reserves, you will find this panel. Flip it over. Looking at it, we are going to cut just right underneath the red band. That should be a good fit for in here. We're going to glue that down. Make sure that you're going to clear your score line there. So let's glue that down. We got the front and the back of this one. Let's flip this up to get that one. In your reserves, you will find this piece. It is cut off. On the back, it looks like this. So let's measure over 5 inches and cut that. This should fit in here. If you need to trim, go ahead and do that. Mine is fitting. Okay, it's time to place these. Okay, lay a piece of score tape like we did on the others, right above the score line on each one of these, and then we're going to trim it down. Placement of these are real easy. All we're going to do is match it up to the top of this without going over it, so it's going to keep you straight. So when we lay it, it's going to lay just like that. So let's go ahead and do our first one. Making sure my sides are even there. And that looks pretty even to me. And it's down. The next one is this. Real easy and quick for these. Oops. Lining it up side to side. And then the last one. Oops. I may have gotten off there. There we go. Okay, and I am going to give it a little bit of bend here. Now let's go ahead and mount this. And we're just going to put glue all the way around there and place that in there. Once you have that done, now it's time to attach this to our page. And we're just going to do like we always have and tack that down. Okay, we're going to grab, we should have at least one left. And we're going to put that butterfly right over here. Oops, make sure the wing is going to clear. So the tip of the wing should be at the top up there. So when you open it, it doesn't smash your butterfly. The next thing we're going to do is put a couple leaves right at the toe of the shoe. And you want to make sure that it does not interfere with that. So the leaves will be on the tip of the shoe. And I'm just going to place them like that. I'm just using 2 layers with the prills in here. Those of you that are using the Kaiser Craft and using the layers and inking around, that would look great too. Or if you're just using a different flower altogether. My prills are still wet. Wink Stella has been applied to this, and it has been applied to all the other flowers. So, and then you just place your flower just like that. This page is done. I did not do anything in here because I left it open for a larger picture or whatever you wanted to do there. So let's go ahead and do the score tape around the outside, 1 down the middle, 2 good size ones on either side, and we're going to mount that in the back page. Okay, placement of our drits. Let's find this. All you are going to do, and you can use your ribbon or you can use lace. I'm going to show you really quick here. You just feed it down through, and you're going to just go like this to see how much you are going to need. Now we haven't done our picture match yet, so you're going to want to leave yourself a little bit of room here. So we're just going to measure. No, leave yourself a little bit of tail because we will trim that down just to see what we need. So, okay, you got one side through. Let's feed the other side through, just like that. And you can position this any way you want. Now you're going to just hook this, and you may want to wait until you're done with all your picture mats on this. And then you're just going to, if you haven't done your picture mats, you're going to leave it a little loose because it is going to expand a little bit, not too loose. So all you're going to do is pull it to the side here. If you are using the white glue, you will definitely need some sort of binder clip to hold it in place until it dries. If you have hot glue, which I am going to use, and I like to hold mine up like this instead of down here because then it all smushes down and you can lose what you need. So when you get it to where you want it, fold back your flaps and just add a little bit of glue back here, just like that. Hot glue will dry it instantly. Make sure you get, and I got it. So then you have this. All you need now is a button or even a flower will work. I'm using a button. Now on the back of buttons, all I do is I just clip that off. And I apply some glue. And there it is. Now you can trim up these, and all I'm going to do here is just shorten them up a little bit. And that is done. Picture mats. How I do picture mats, and it's all according to taste, is I do mount all mine on white cardstock, leaving a little bit of a white frame around them. And you can do the back side as well. There's plenty of paper left to go ahead and do that if you'd like to double them up. One side's this and perhaps a lighter on the other side. You can journal on the back or just put 2 different photos if you'd like. So that's all there is to it. If you like, I always leave this up to you because of the fact that everybody has their own taste of the sized photos that they do. For instance, some people get the 3.5 by I think what 5.5 or whatever, or 4 by 6 or whatever. And some people like to really crop theirs down to the main photo. So that is how it's done. As far as tags go, I do usually mount white cardstock to the back of tags, but you definitely do not have to. Another thing you can do is definitely dress up some of your picture mats. And like with this one, I'm going to stick a flower at the top. Alright, For little scrap pieces like this, they really do come in handy. You can decorate your tags, anything. For instance, here's a tag. I wanted a little more color, some different. I punched a hole up here. Fed it through. Brought this in. And voila, there is a tag. Here's another way to get creative with scrap pieces and whatnot. What I've done here is I cut a piece of cardstock. This is magnetic. So what the idea behind this is you can place several picture mats or even a tag underneath here, and it holds it all shut, and when you stick it in the pocket, it stores it all. And I thought that was kind of a neat idea. Scrap pieces were these pieces. And so put your scrap pieces to good use. Decorate your tags, your photo mats, and have fun. So this concludes this tutorial. I hope that you have enjoyed it, and I will see you next time when on the next tutorial I create. Happy crafting!